This guy has forgotten more about politics than most of us will ever know. He's the great Michael Shure, everyone. Hello, sir.
Hey, guys.
Well, Michael, we talked about this Alito thing at the beginning of the program, the flag being flown there, and it seems as though he claims it was his spouse. And, speaking of spouses, you have another Supreme Court Justice in Clarence Thomas, whose spouse is hip deep in election denial and in coup attempting, in my judgment. The court, I was saying, has really always been political. I mean, the politics of the Supreme Court has always been there, but it seems as though there's just almost an unapologetic corruption and bias to the court now.
Well, yeah, I mean, the politics has always been there, but it wasn't the same kind of tribal politics most of the way, and certainly not with the majority of justices. So that's what's different. And so these public expressions of politics are very different than having a conservative judicial record or dodging questions during your Senate confirmation hearing from Democrats. So this is much more overt, and not saying necessarily that it was Alito who put it up there. No one is. They're saying it's his wife in response to a neighbor who put up an F Trump flag. So, it was a back and forth. It just not what the wife of a Supreme Court justice should do, and it shouldn't be on the house of a Supreme Court justice. Richard Durbin, the Democrat from Chicago, senator, is saying that he should be recuse himself from all of the cases having to do with the 2020 election, which, I think is going to be a conversation that a lot of people are going to have.
Well, I like that they're going to have it. I've always felt that just even on Clarence Thomas, that controversy, that bias, that naked corruption, even in terms of sort of the monies that he received, the buying of a place for his mother and all this other. I just felt as though that, was in the news cycle, don't get me wrong, for 10 days or so, as I recall, or maybe a little bit longer, but it really should be the subject of a lot more controversy and a lot more conversation. And so again, I mean, I think about this, if this were the right learning of this over, one of the liberal justices' homes, we would never hear the end of it. I mean, It would have been like the Hillary emails.
Right. Where have you gone, David Souter, the Bachelor Justice, right? I think that what you are looking at when you compare these two is a real difference, though. I think Clarence Thomas is, and the level of egregiousness there is much worse than what Samuel Alito and Mrs. Alito, in this case, did. I'm no defense for it, but I'm just saying that it's really apples and oranges, because it was Clarence Thomas himself who did so much of that, who took so much money, who took free trips and that sort of thing. It really poisoned the well. To think that Samuel Alito didn't have an opinion on whether or not the election was rigged, we don't know, but I would presume that he would be siding with Donald Trump in that case. But it doesn't matter. That flag shouldn't have been up there. I want to be careful that Clarence Thomas, what he did is almost criminal in the way that Congress should look at it, versus this, which was a big mistake.
Oh, that's interesting, and when you draw it out that way, I see the distinction, and it makes total sense. I don't know that anything will ever be done. We've created these, it's a regal court. It really is. These are kings, and queens or whatever. These are people who are really not held to account, and so even the basic ethics code that's out there, there's no enforcing of it.
Right. Well, that's true, that you don't see the enforcement, and that's the big gap. And they also don't quite know how to enforce it, and that's the problem. You go to the rule book, and there's not really a clear delineation of who's the one to enforce it. Is it the justice themselves? Is it the chief justice? We don't know. But clearly, if John Roberts wanted to step in, he would, and maybe he should.
I want to turn to what was agreed upon this week by the two presidential candidates, and that is this debate that will be audience-less, which seems to me like a good idea. And also there are certain, I guess they planned anyway, certain technical ways they can avoid maybe shout downs back and forth, although, cutting somebody's mic when it's not really their turn to respond. I've always felt that these are TV shows anyway, that there's no real debating going on. I mean, that, it's made me uncomfortable. I know these debates have become a thing, but they really, I like that they've pulled back from the World Wrestling event that they were like just a few years ago. But it still seems as though they're still a TV show. Could you speak to me about debates generally in your judgment, how you see them, and then this particular agreement on these debates and how you feel that fits into all that?
Yeah, well, so look, I one thing you have to say when you talk about these debates is that both or neither man wants RFK Jr. on the stage for various reasons. Probably a greater charisma in talking about serious issues is what they would say. Of course, Kennedy is looked at as kind of fringe by a lot of people. He is, if you're looking at the superficial stuff, his voice is different than what we're accustomed to hearing. But by the same token, he's somebody who can sort of bring the facts and criticize both of them. If they're criticizing each other, that's one thing. If somebody else is doing the criticizing, it hurts both candidates, and they don't want to have to answer to that person who they look at as kind of a gadfly in this race. So there is that part of it and this avoids by going outside of the Committee on Presidential Debates. They don't have to have Bobby Kennedy on the stage, which does matter. And I think it's the biggest impetus for this, in fact. I think not having the audience there is good. I think ratings will not be as good because there's not an audience there. And I think that having it, the first one be in June, it makes it easier for Biden to have it just be about Trump. It will be soon after we hear some kind of a verdict in New York. If Biden is going to win this election, a big part of that will be by having people vote against Donald Trump to scare them into the possibility of a Trump presidency. And I think that's important. Another part of it is that there's a big spread between June and September. So if Biden disappoints in June, he can come back and do it again in September and do well. That helps Biden as well.
That's a really interesting take as well. And I'm wondering, last thing on the debate, if there's anything to the interesting take, meaning the timing. I really like that take for that reason. I hadn't thought about the timing being strategically so advantageous. I wonder if you could speak to the thing that Trump sort of threw in a third debate in his saying, sure, I'll do it, and a Fox News debate on whatever date he suggested. I mean, it's something that hadn't been agreed to, but it was sort of, and then he did that thing that he goes, like sort of like done and done. Thank you, I'll be there. Yeah, and it's very Trumpian, to sort of force that. And that would be the last debate. I think he wants it in October or something in Fox News land.
Yeah, and I think that I look, that's very Trumpian. It's just sort of put it out there as something that isn't real. And until it's real, it isn't real.
And of course, because they'll go, we didn't agree on that. It goes, oh, you're afraid to debate. I see, you're afraid to debate unless it's your liberal media, mainstream, whatever. No, it's a strategic move that he makes. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, that's what they're both doing. It's and a Fox News debate he knows would be friendlier to him than it would to Biden, perhaps. But I think the smart money would bet that. Look, it wasn't agreed to. It wasn't talked about. Could he frame it as if Biden's dodging debates? I guess he could, but he would have to do that after they'd already had two. So the retort there for Biden was, what do you mean I'm dodging dates? We had debates. We had two presidential debates, and now I'm done. And all of the lies that you told in the last one mean that I don't want to debate you again, and I don't have to because that's not what we agreed to. So I think that I think it'll be a little off-putting for Trump not to have an audience there. And look, Joe Biden, throughout his career has not been a great debater. He in a vice presidential debate against Sarah Palin when they were running against each other in 2008 on the McCain-Palin versus Obama-Biden. But the expectation was that Sarah Palin would not be a good debater, and she wasn't. But neither was Biden. Biden didn't win that overwhelmingly. His debate skills are not a dream for the ticket. So especially as he's in an advanced age right now, and these are times when frailty would show. I think the less the better for Biden. But by the same token, he's also going to get credit for saying, let's debate, and here's how we're going to do it. I want to debate. He also said it on the Howard Stern show. That was the first time he said he was going to agree to debate.
It's funny that you mentioned the Howard Stern show, because I was just about to say, for those who feel as though he's infirm, he's not running the country, I don't know, all this stuff, and he's been diminished so much. On Howard Stern, he seemed pretty together, didn't he?
Yeah, he does he seems together. I think there are two meters, and I think I just talked about it a little bit with Biden and debates, is that Biden and other presidents. Joe Biden at 61 was not a whole lot better than he is at 81 in speaking extemporaneously, in reading a speech, in presenting in that way. That was not his stock and trade. It was about passion. It was about authenticity. It was about, I'm one of you. I'm the union guy and the firefighter, and I'm also the person who cares about kids and about minorities. And I also was on the Foreign Affairs Committee, so I know all about international geopolitical things, and I was on the judiciary, so I know about the law. That's how he sells himself. His interactions have never been perfect. He lost a number of times in runs for the presidency because of that, I would argue. And so again, this is he was very good on Howard Stern. If you have the bar at Barack Obama and Ronald Reagan and Bill Clinton, you're not gonna find Joe Biden anywhere near them. But if you have it in terms of competence and what he's accomplished, then that's what the Biden campaign wants you to look at.
It's funny just how much of this really turns on charisma. It just feels like high school, it really
Right.
does.
Look, it goes back to Nixon and Kennedy debating in 1960. If you listened to it, you thought Nixon won, and if you watched it, you thought Kennedy won. And since then, we've been watching it, right? And it matters. It's natural, I guess.
And does the debate result matter? Like who wins and who loses? Does that matter?
No, I think what we remember about debates, and we probably talked about it here before, are zingers and weird things that happen. What do we remember about the last? I've covered a lot of these debates. I remember the fly on Mike Pence's head.
Sure, that's exactly when you asked.
I remember Lloyd Benson saying, "I knew Jack Kennedy. You're no Jack Kennedy," to Dan Quayle. And that was in 1988. So we're talking about few and far between. You remember Jimmy Carter and Gerald Ford, maybe, with Ford saying that there's no Soviet presence in Poland. There are moments in debates, but the overall who won this debate, who won that debate, that stuff fades. And it also fades when you have your last one in September for an election in November, where so much of the narrative of an election is written in October.
This from Uncle Russ. I'm surprised Trump isn't trying to push for a debate, President David Palmer style. Dennis Haysbert in the TV show 24. You remember that debate on the TV show 24, Michael Shure?
I watched 24. It was the first thing I ever binge watched, actually. And then
the president walked off in the middle of the debate in 24.
Right. Okay.
Because of a national emergency that was going on. He was being told in his ear. Do you remember who moderated that debate? It was one sole moderator.
The sole moderator of that debate, I'm going to say, can I have two guesses?
Sure.
I'll say Mark Thompson.
Yes. You got it. On the first guess. That was very strong. Very good. Now, I hate to do this because I don't mean to sully your segment with something like the political or whatever it was food fight that went on Capitol Hill. But Albert, do you have that Marjorie Taylor Greene back and forth? It's just it is in the news cycle now because she has again just taken I didn't want to call it discourse. I don't know what she's doing, but she is just It's as close to a food fight, a rhetorical food fight, as you're going to find. This
No
is
pun.
yeah. Here's a little bit of it. Go ahead.
I'd like to know if any of the Democrats on this committee are employing Judge Merchan's daughter.
Please tell me what that has to do with Merrick Garland.
Is she a porn star?
Oh, Goldman. That's right. He's advising. Okay.
He's advising who? What? Do you know what we're here for? You know we're here about AG.
I don't
Point
think
of-
you
point
know
of
what
order.
you're here
President.
for.
Well, you the one talking about. I guess
I
you're still
think your
stuck in the
fake
courtroom.
eyelashes are messing up.
No,
what you're
ain't
reading.
nothing.
Hold on.
Listen.
Order.
Mr. Chairman,
That's beneath
would
even
you
your
please
history and
regain
that's beneath
order
even
of your
you.
committee?
Order.
I do have a point of order, and I would like to move to take down Ms. Green's words. That is absolutely unacceptable. How dare you
meeting will
attack the
suspend,
physical
meeting will
appearance of another
suspend.
person?
Are your
Move
feelings
her
hurt?
words down.
Oh,
Oh, girl, baby girl.
oh, really?
Don't even play. with
Baby
me.
girl?
We're gonna,
I don't think
we are going to
so.
move, and we're going to take your words down.
I
Thank you very
second that motion.
So who will have to pay it? Okay. But Ms. Green agrees to strike her words.
I believe she
Chair
needs to apologize.
recognizes
No,
Mr.
she
Perry.
needs to
Okay,
apologize.
hold on. Then after Mr. Perry's going to be recognized, then Ms. Green
I'm not
has 4 minutes and
apologizing.
21
Well,
seconds.
then
Okay,
you're
reserve
not
the right to
striking your
object.
words.
I am
Mr.
not
Perry.
apologizing.
Now let's go. Come on, guys.
Why don't you debate me?
Mr. Chairman, the
I think it's
minority.
pretty
No,
self-evident.
You're not.
Yeah, you're
out
not.
of order.
You don't have enough
You're out of order.
intelligence.
Chair recognizes Mr. Perry.
Okay, move to strike
I'd like to
I
strike
move to
those
strike the
words
lady's
as well.
words.
I would
Order.
like to
I
strike
strike
those
the
as
lady's
well.
words again.
That's 2 requests to strike. That's 2 requests to strike.
Oh, they cannot take the
There's
words.
another motion to strike her words again. Please
All right.
get
Okay.
your members under
Here's the
control.
correct priority. Ms. Green, do you agree to unanimous consent to strike your words?
I repeat again for the second time. Yes, I'll strike
right.
my words,
That-
but I'm not
all right.
apologizing.
Without objection.
Not
Chair
apologizing.
recognizes 21 seconds.
Mr.
All right,
Chair,
that's
point of order.
enough. By the way, I think it's the first time I've heard on Capitol Hill the phrase "baby girl, don't even play." I mean, that was a very strong offering.
Yeah, and for me, it was the first time I've ever heard the phrase "baby girl, don't even play," ever. So there
It's
you go.
true. I-
First time you've heard it on Capitol Hill, but
What is going on up there?
well, what's going on is it's further. I mean, my take on this is further evidence that the Republican House caucus is a mess. They don't know what to do with Marjorie Taylor Greene. They can't really stand her, most of them, and it's become untenable because it demeans the work that they are trying to do. Whatever you think of that work is a different conversation, but they can't even get that done because they have these sorts of distractions. It also, to a degree, but less so, elevates the Democrats and these women who were opposing what she was saying there. She was asking facetiously if Judge Merchan's daughter, who was a Biden supporter, and Judge Merchan is the judge sitting on Donald Trump's trial right now, if his daughter was on the payroll of any of these members of Congress. Of course, it's absurd, but it could be asked in a normal way if it needed to be asked. Also, it's something you would know going into this already, and we would have heard from Marjorie Taylor Greene. But it really points to what a mess it is on that side. And it's the worst thing to happen in an election year all the time, to have these sort of things. It makes George Santos seem like, light beer compared to what they're having to deal with here with Greene on a daily basis. And she gets the attention too.
Yeah, exactly. And I think burnishing her brand is all about doing just that. That she can pipe up, and even the following so many of her outbursts, the gaggle of reporters around her on the Capitol steps. You know this, Michael. It's a huge bunch, and these press conferences that she holds can go on for an hour. Why? Because she's just good copy, and she creates this madness. But as you say,
they want to go away from it. It's also that you reap what you sow. If you have Donald Trump as the standard bearer of your party, you're going to get this trickle down, and that's what's happened. And you have somebody like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who is there to do serious work, whether you agree with her or not, whether you're disappointed that she is more of a congresswoman than she was a trailblazer. It doesn't matter. She's there trying to get stuff done, and then has to deal with people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, and then being sort of looked at with the false equivalency from the other side of Marjorie Taylor Greene. and that's a tough spot for Ocasio-Cortez to be in.
Hi, it's Mark, and I thought that was great. Hit the notification bell, you'll know whenever there's a new video being dropped, and please subscribe to our channel to help us save the universe.